Hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of The Growth Show. I'm Whitney, your host, and we're just having a solo episode today. And I thought I would just first start with like some life updates and what's going on with me in my life. So, we're pretty caught up on recording episodes of the podcast. So, I am recording this in near real time. This is going out next week. And I am in Lisbon, Portugal right now. We're here for a couple more weeks. And then we fly back to Brazil, and we're going to be spending 3 months in Brazil. And then we're still trying to figure out what we're doing after Brazil. So that'll be like mid-December. But we're loving Lisbon. It's been pretty toasty. The weather's calming down a little bit now. We have friends here. So it's been great to like actually go out with friends and see people and like have continuing conversations as opposed to always like new conversations. That's definitely one of the biggest challenges, I would say, with being like a digital nomad or a perpetual traveler, a full-time traveler is just, having friends and having community and all of that. So we have that in Lisbon. So that's been really nice and making some new friends too. So I also joined a gym here. I joined a gym in Belgium as well. And I was just, oh my gosh, I just loved it because I think I mentioned this in a prior episode. Like, I just love lifting heavy weights. It just makes my heart sing. And so this morning I went to a fitness class. It was like a boot camp style class. Those are honestly like my favorite, and they're like functional fitness. And it's a good time. I'm very happy that it's all taught in English too. That is not something that we always get. And in countries where there isn't going to be English, I then tend to go towards like spin classes or other classes that don't require like a lot of explanation. So if I don't know what's going on, it's not as obvious that I have a language barrier. So I'm just soaking it up right now. It's been great. And then I was also able to make some friends. So I made friends with a woman who is Swedish, but she's been living here in Portugal on and off for 7 years. But she's been traveling. I think she has spent time in Dubai and a few other spots. She came over last weekend. We had some friends over. We have a little pool here in our Airbnb in Lisbon. Very rare. We're trying to make the most of it. And so she came over, and then I met someone else at the gym who she's also traveling. She's from Ireland, and she's just starting to figure out like, okay, where might I want to spend a little bit more time? And so we went out for coffee and got to just chat about life. And it's really funny. Her story and like where she's at right now is very much where I was. She just got out of a long-term relationship like a year and a half ago. I also, before I started traveling, also was about a year and a half out of a long-term relationship that I thought was going to be like, that was my life. And then we're going to have kids. And I don't regret that it ended. It was right that it ended. It was not the right fit for me and for the other person involved. And much happier with my life now. And I found my husband, and we're building a life together and all of that. But it was really interesting because we had this conversation about just, a lot of times, like if you're in a long-term relationship and then it ends when you're like in your early 30s or getting into your mid 30s as a woman, it really makes you start questioning, well, what actually am I doing with my life? Like now that path that I thought I was on is no longer the thing that I'm doing. What am I going to do? And for me, I mean, I did go back into dating and all of that, but then it really opened up the world to me and made me realize that I no longer have to do anything because the original plan that I had did not pan out. And so now I can do anything, which I could have done before as well. But it was like everything's turned on its head. Nothing now is going to plan. So therefore there are new plans, and therefore you can do whatever you want. And that's when I started going to concerts on my own and taking trips on my own and just being more comfortable being on my own and seeing that having a partner and having a mate was more about just adding to my life rather than filling some void or hole. And I think that really helped me in my progress to finding Dylan, my husband now, and just also feeling fulfilled and even getting out of maybe some of the habits or like ruts that I was in when I was in DC. That was the last place I lived before I started traveling. So if any of you are in that stage or you know someone who is in that stage, because she and I were talking about how this is just isn't talked about as much. You either see like the really young digital nomads, or maybe you see a couple and they're already established. And, I just think sometimes it's hard to visualize what is possible for you when you don't see other people doing it publicly. I know even when I started traveling, I didn't really see a lot of people who I felt were like me, women who were a little bit older, maybe a little bit more professionally driven, career driven, starting their own businesses and all of that. I didn't see as much of that. I saw like a lot of digital nomads that were like freelancers or younger and just kind of flitting around here and there. And that wasn't really the style of travel that I wanted to have. And I'm glad that it didn't stop me, but it can stop you if you don't see not even role models, but just other people doing things that you might want to do. So I share all that just to put that out there. And I think whatever it is that you do in your life, and maybe you're thinking that no one else cares about what you're doing, just remember that there are people always looking for other people to be showing them what's possible, showing them a different perspective, and don't be afraid to just share your truth and share what you're going through and what you're navigating in your life. Yeah, it can relate to your business or it cannot. I think it's just about showing people that, the humanity behind all of this and all of us. So that's my little, I don't know even what that is, motivational thought for the day. In other news, if you were checking out my Instagram stories earlier this week, which will now be last week for you, when you listen to this, we had a catastrophe. There are neighbor cats that have been coming to my yard, our Airbnb, and hanging out. And I thought they were friends, but turns out they're enemies. And then they had a fight on a fence that was right over like this pit that was, it's like basically a lowered basement kind of thing. So it's below ground level and there's just walls. There's no stairs out of it. I think it's like the basement where the neighbors put out their laundry and whatnot. But the neighbors, that house is closed down. There's no one there. And the cats fell into that hole. And of course they did it at 8:30 at night when I was just about to relax and just put my feet up. And so 2 hours of stress with the neighbor trying to figure it out. Finally got the cats out of the hole by attaching a very long Ethernet cable to, luckily there was a ladder because our place has more stuff going on with the pool and there's a garden and it's multi-level. So there was a ladder, thank goodness. So we attached the Ethernet cable, lowered the ladder into the pit. This guy bravely lowered himself onto the ladder. It was not easy. And then he went in and got the cats. So it was quite an evening. And I'm glad that the cats are okay. They haven't come back yet. I think maybe they're kind of laying low a little bit, but I do hope that I do still have some more cat time ahead of me, because also another thing, when you're traveling, you don't have pets. So when I can interact with animals, I do. I cherish it. And yeah, so that's cat stuff. And now let's talk about business. I met with another cool thing is I do get to meet people from around the world and connect with different people that connect me with different people. And one of my friends who we tried to meet up the last time I was in Lisbon, but we couldn't. And now we were able to finally meet up in real life. She's a fellow business owner, also a web designer. And it was a good meeting. We talked about all sorts of stuff, visas and settling in different countries, and picking her brain about what she and her husband are doing, because they're here on a visa in Portugal right now, but they're starting to move. And we also just talked about business and just the ups and downs of business, and how you never really know how it's going to go. And you never really know if you're at the bottom of what is about to go up, or if you're at the top of something that is still continuing to go down. And that question of when do you decide when to pivot, when to change, and all of that. And that's not necessarily what this podcast episode is about today. I really want to talk about getting started in business. But I guess all I want to say is that the nature of business is that we're always going to be making decisions and taking chances that feel uncomfortable. It's just what business is about because no one has done our business before. And if it was easy to start a business, everyone would do it. I remember when I was starting my business, I remember people telling me, oh, it's really hard. Most businesses fail. And I said to myself, well, it's not going to be hard for me. Like, I'm not going to go in with that mindset. And I do believe that is a helpful mindset to have. It was helpful for me because even though I wasn't blind to the challenges, I didn't gloss over things, but at the same time, I didn't go in thinking like, okay, well, this is going to be tough. I was kind of doing the like law of attraction kind of thought work at the time and really just believing, which I think is still valuable. I probably need to get back into it, that it's not going to be easy. I'm going to figure it out. Or it's not going to be hard. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to just allow it to unfold and all of that. But it took even some time to get to that point in terms of thinking that. Although I think I had that kind of thinking. I remember when I was getting my first job and I was going to Washington, D.C., and people told me, oh, a large school district, that's going to be really challenging. That's very political. There's, a lot of pressure there. And I remember being like, well, it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be difficult for me. I mean, that's fine if you're telling me that and you're giving me that warning, but it doesn't have to be that difficult. In hindsight, it was actually, yes, they were completely right. It was very difficult, very challenging, but I stuck it out. I was there for 3 years. It got me to where I got in my career. It prepared me for everything after. So, but the things that you got to start, right? And so my impetus for today's episode and topic is about what's keeping you from starting? What is keeping you from moving forward so that we can uncover and break through that block? And, I'm talking to you in the specifics of a website because that is what I can help you with. I can help you put together a website for your business so that you can move to that next stage of marketing yourself and increasing your visibility and increasing your reach and all of those things that come with having an online presence and having something that's more strategic and automated and systems. And really, it's a big thing. A website is actually a big tool for your business. You've heard me talk about it, but it's not just this placeholder. It's actually really like a comprehensive system for your business. But if you are hesitating to move forward with a website, I want to uncover some of the things that could be keeping you from doing it. And I'm going to group it into 2 buckets of either it being mindset related or being like logic and just practical, tactical related. And so I'm going to start with the mindset stuff, and then we'll also just talk about some of the practicalities, because I think another thing that can keep us from moving forward, and I've seen this just in every facet of work and business, is if something isn't clear, then we're going to avoid doing it. It may be subconscious. We may not even realize that we are avoiding that thing or not doing it. But if there is any kind of discomfort around it, any kind of lack of clarity, I'm not really sure, this kind of thing, then we just usually don't do it. So I want to try and help you feel more clear so you do understand, because websites shouldn't be something that is like smoke and mirrors. You don't know what's going on. Now, you don't need to become a developer and a design genius or anything like that, but you should know the process so that you know what you're getting into and what I would do and what I and my team would be doing for you versus what you would need to be doing. But anyway, let's talk about the mindset stuff. So first off, it really could just be fear that is a lot bigger than just a website decision. It could be fear about not wanting to make your business real yet, like not wanting to put yourself out there, feeling a little uncertain still. Maybe you have fear of success. Maybe you have fear of failure. Maybe you're worried that certain people in your life are going to judge you, that you're going to be judging yourself harshly. Maybe you're just really feeling like I'm not actually ready to like put this in front of a person yet, put this in front of a stranger. I'm just really scared about it. When I was starting my business, I had a lot of fear coming up. I knew I wanted my business. I knew I was so passionate. Like I was like rocket fuel that was being built up. Like I knew that I wanted to do design and do websites. And at the time, I also wanted to help people learn how to video edit and do video editing. Like, I just wanted to do something creative. And I wanted to give a voice to all these dietitians. And now we've expanded into therapists and other like allied health, professionals. I wanted to give them a platform and a voice and a trusted resource to get their message out there. So I was so passionate about that. But then when it came time, I remember I had put up my website. I had made like a business card. I actually talked about it at Fancy. And then when it came time to reach out to my network to tell them that I was starting a business and I was offering something, I could not bring myself to do it. So I don't know that I had a website yet. It was more the act of just even telling one person that I was starting a business. And there was a lot of fear. And I was talking to a friend and she recommended that I get some coaching around it. And I did hire a business coach and we uncovered there were a lot of layers of it. And so that's why I'm saying it was mindset, but it was also tactical and practical. Like how much money, because I wanted to quit my job. So how much money did I really need to have and how much did I want to make in order to feel secure in quitting my job? But then also, what were all of those thoughts and feelings that were keeping me from wanting to tell anyone about my business? So I can totally see how if you have this thought that I want a website, I want to get out there, I want my business to start growing, I have this passion, but then at the same time, you have a real great fear of having anyone see your business and having to make it real, then I would definitely work through that and think through that and potentially get some coaching around it or talk through it with a trusted friend or a loved one. And I would also just kind of give yourself some tough love too and be like, how long are you going to sit on this idea? How much longer can you bear not moving forward and not getting this thing done that is a milestone? I mean, at this point, for a while I was talking more about like why you need a website. I think everyone knows that you need a website at this point. So it's like a rite of passage in business to put a website out there so that you can start really talking about your business and having more people than just your immediate circle knowing about what you do. You need strangers to know about what you do if you want your business to grow. And a website is going to allow you to do that. But if you are just not wanting to put that out there, then you really need to think through like, okay, well, how long am I going to be waiting for this milestone to pass and this milestone to be achieved? Because you do need to do it. And we'll get into the practical things in a moment. And then I would ask yourself, like, what sign are you waiting for? Is there a specific, think through, like, is there something actually that if you had this, then you would feel more confident? And then think about when you actually got that thing or that sign arrived, would you actually move forward? And is that thing actually going to happen? What are the steps for that thing to happen? So if you're saying, and I've heard this before with websites, if you're saying, I feel like I need to have a few more clients before I invest in a website. Okay. So you need to have a few more clients. How are you going to get those clients? What are you going to do? What are the steps then? So now that's the new thing. Like, okay, we got the website back here, but like, okay, what are we going to do to get the clients thing? And are you just putting more roadblocks in front of you that are just not going to be achievable with what the tools that you have right now? So if it was, okay, I need to go and find 5 more clients, you are going to need to be really clear on who you're talking to. What marketing channels are you going to be doing? How are you going to tell people what your services are? And how are you going to bring them in as clients? How are you going to do all of that? What are the specifics of doing that? Because your website can be that tool that helps you with those clients. But if you just keep putting up little roadblocks and barriers that would allow you to move forward, it's like you're just handcuffing yourself. And I just think it's really unfair to ourselves as business owners to just create these like unrealistic goals that actually hold us back. So I would just think about, if you are saying like, I need to have X, Y, and Z, think through, is it reasonable for you to get X, Y, and Z? How are you going to do it? How fast are you going to do it? How long are you going to give yourself to maybe get to X before you say, you know what? This is maybe the wrong thing to be saying I need to achieve first, and it's not working. And because just remember too, we only have so much energy. And if you are spinning your wheels and getting really frustrated because you're trying to achieve X, when what you really wanted was to get a website, and then you exhaust yourself and you start thinking badly about yourself and thinking, well, I'm just not cut out for business. But it's because you were giving yourself a really unrealistic, difficult goal without having all the tools to be able to do it. So cut yourself some slack. And then I would just really, to wrap this mindset piece up, just think through, what is the real reason that you're not moving forward? And I would just journal about it and journal down all the ideas and think through, how can you get support around whatever those reasons are? Because everything is solvable. Everything can have some kind of conclusion, some kind of resolution. Yeah, no, it may not always be fixed, but at least you've written it down. You've said, okay, this thing, is this realistic or not? Is this a real fear, or is this just something that I've been telling myself for years? Or, I told my dad that I wanted to start a business. He's a business owner, and he was not happy hearing that I wanted to quit my job and start my business. And I think that really impacted me. I mean, now he's very proud of me and very supportive. And I knew he was doing it because he didn't want me to suffer the way he suffered as an entrepreneur. It was from love, but it really impacted me for a long time, and really, I think, did some things to just my psyche. But that was not like a real barrier. That was something that I needed to work through and uncover. So think through those things and try and get down to that bottom of it and that fear, because a website is definitely bringing your business forward and making it visible in a big way, and you kind of putting your stake in the ground. And if you're fearful to move forward on that and just not feeling ready, maybe it's not fear, maybe you're just having some different feelings than that, but there's some reason that you're just like, I can't think about that yet. I don't want to think about it. You keep putting it off, then that needs to really be uncovered. Okay, so then let's talk about the practical, logistical things. And one thing that I do want to say too, I should have put this at the beginning, is that I do have a workshop coming up. It is happening, let's see, by the time this episode drops, it will be happening, next week. So I will give you more details. The workshop is really going to be helping you get clear on these foundational things for your business that I'm going to talk through now, just some of the practical things. And it is the first time I'm doing a paid workshop. It's still very reasonably priced, $47. And it's going to be a 2-day workshop. We're going to be hosting it on September 3rd and 4th from 11 a.m. It'll go probably like an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. I'm blocking out 2 hours. That's why it's paid. Like, it's really in-depth. This is not a sales class. This is in-depth workshop. We're going to be working through exercises, and you're actually going to be able to submit your homework on the first day and send it to me. And then on the next day, I'll go through some of your examples and what's been sent in and have some conversation and critique and discussion around it, or anything that you are having challenges with. We're capping it at 30 people. So don't wait if you want to enroll. Again, $47. And it's worth it to really get clear on some of the stuff that I'm about to talk to. And it's whitneybateson.com/workshop to register. But I'll give some more details at the end as well. So, in terms of practical things that you might not be sure of when it comes to your website. So, one thing is saying I'm not clear on my niche and my services yet. I maybe have a few different ideas for niches. I'm not sure if they're too specific or they're too broad, or I have like two different ones and I have no idea how to approach that with a website. So, you just stop because you're like, I don't know. I don't know what to do about that. Or you're still trying to figure out your services, which most of us are when we're starting our businesses. It's not like we know our services frontwards and backwards, but feeling maybe like I can't move forward until I know what my services are. And for all of these things, so it's not too complicated to get clear on these things. You just need to decide, and you need some structure and framework to make the best decision. And this is what we would be talking about in the workshop. I'll be giving more specifics about how to pick your niche and some things to start prioritizing your services if you're picking through a few different ones, and how to really, when we're talking about putting it on your website, how to make sure that those services are really transformed into offers where it's really, okay, what is the value of this thing? It's not just, okay, pay me money for this thing, but it's like, what is the value? What is the benefit? What is that final outcome, that solution that you are giving people? And then they can choose, am I looking for this solution? Am I looking for this solution? So they're more buying from that perspective. So we want to get to that point, but first off, you need to decide what it is that you want to help people with and all of that. And like I said, it doesn't have to be complicated to figure this out, but sometimes we're in our own heads and we just need someone else to like bounce ideas off of. I know I'm definitely like that. So if that would benefit you, then I think the workshop would be really helpful. And yeah, getting clear on our customer, who we want to serve, all of those things, it just takes a little bit of accountability and time to clarify it. And then the other thing that I want to mention is that if you've been listening for a while, you know that I run the Wellness Pro website system. That's our Done With You program to launch your website. So unlike a typical designer, we are giving you a page layout that we've already designed and installed, and then you're putting your content into it. And the beauty of this is that you don't need to be 100% clear or certain on all of your services, right? Because you are putting the content in there, which means you know how to change that content versus a designer is going to design your site. You've paid them lots of money. You want everything to look great so that when that site goes live, everything's perfect. But then what happens is that puts a lot of pressure on you to feel like you need to get it right and everything needs to be perfect because you don't want to have to pay them to change the things again. And it's going to be too hard for you to change it and all of that. Whereas our approach is that your website is an evolving, living thing because your business is a living, evolving thing. And so I think finding a solution like ours where you will be able to make the changes, I think is really key, because then it takes some of the pressure off of that you have to have everything figured out and it needs to be unchanged for the next 6 months to a year. We've had people come in where they only had one main service. They launched that. They had a wait list for another service. So I really love when people also just put up a wait list for something they're thinking about doing, but they're not ready yet. And then once you're ready, you take down the wait list and you put an enrollment link. And then they launch with that one service and then they start adding other ones. So there's ways around it. There is always a solution. So just keep that in mind. Let's see, another question that I have written down here. I need to have everything ready before I put it on the website. Yeah, so that's just what I was saying. Yeah, you do. I mean, you do need to actually put your content together and write it and all of that. And that's something we coach all of our clients through. But then you can change it. So it's not something that needs to be set in stone and can never be changed. Another question, I don't have enough time to see a lot of clients. So that's a little bit of that like fear of success thing. And so a few things I would say. First off, we always think that our businesses are going to just take off as soon as we put an offer out there. I remember when I first launched my program, I was worried about how many people would come in and enroll and how well we'd be able to serve those people. I was expecting the floodgates to open. Well, guess what? That didn't happen. And usually that doesn't happen. There are things that really like take off and all of that, but I don't think we ever get as much interest as we're kind of fearful is going to happen at the very beginning when we launch something. So one thing is just that it's like, don't worry because I've had people say, well, I don't have enough time to have like a lot of calls on my calendar, discovery calls and all of that. It's like, you can put limits on that. You don't have to worry about it. But also, you're probably not going to get so many discovery calls that it's going to feel like a burden if you have everything set up correctly, which we would be doing with your website, because we don't want to have just like anyone setting up a discovery call. We want them to, be a little pre-qualified and all of that, because your time is valuable. So we want the best fit people to be coming on the call to begin with. But, other things you can do. Yeah, you can put limits on how many clients can book calls every week. It's a good problem to have if you have more interest than you have time. That means that you're probably not pricing your services highly enough because, it's just economics. I think many of us took economics courses at some point in our schooling, at least one. And, it's the demand with the price. And so you need to find that happy medium where you're getting enough people coming in at a price that makes sense and not having people drop off because the price is too high, but not having so many people come in because the price is just too low. So that's a fine problem to have. And then you can also put up a wait list. And then you can say, you know what, we are booking clients for next month. So schedule a call. And once they get on the call, then you can say, okay, we can start in 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever the case is. So there's always a solution. Don't let fear of success keep you from moving forward and getting more visible, because it is a long process to be growing our visibility and growing our audience and getting that pipeline of potential clients in. Some clients need a lot of time to make a decision. So we want to always be having more people coming into our audience every month, fresh leads. And the sooner that you can do that, the sooner you can have those people just kind of hanging out. They're on your email list. Maybe you're even sending them follow-up emails personally, checking in and whatnot. And we want to have enough time for that to not feel like, oh my gosh, this month, what's happening? I don't have any leads and, I don't have enough clients. We don't want that kind of thing. We want everything to feel more consistent and have that buffer of new leads coming in. So there's always a way around it. And it's better to be building those systems and be getting those leads starting to come in than waiting and saying, oh, now I'm ready to see more people. And you can always hire another practitioner too. There's so many different ways to do it. I know none of these are necessarily easy or comfortable, but listen, again, business is all about doing uncomfortable things. I've done so many uncomfortable things. It's not even funny. So I've cried through them. It's fine, but we get through them. I don't want my employer to know I have a business. This is another practical kind of concern. I don't know how many of you maybe have felt this. I know when I was starting my business, I was a little worried about that and thinking that I didn't want my employer to know that I was starting a business. And I think I'm not going to give any like legal advice here. I think everyone has to decide on their own, but I have just seen so many people that they just have businesses, they have side hustles, they have things. I gave my all to my prior company, so much so that I really did not have a network after I left that company. It was almost like, a relationship, and my boyfriend and I just didn't keep any of my friends. I didn't try and make my own friends. I just was with him and all of his friends. And then when we broke up, I had nothing. And that's what it's like, at least it was for me, when it came to when I wanted to quit my job. If I was wanting to find another job or something like that, I was starting from ground zero. So I think each one of us needs to have some kind of presence, some kind of network, something going on. And that's just looking out for yourself. And you're not putting your business at risk, your employer at risk, by just making sure you still have a life, you have your network. And if you are wanting to start your business, doing that. Obviously, I know there are sometimes like non-competes and whatever. And if you're starting a business that is in like direct competition from the company that you're currently working at, there could be some issues. And again, not giving legal advice here, but that was a fear I had and I needed to get over it as well. I think I don't want to overgeneralize, but a lot of us are probably people pleasers and we don't want to get in trouble. I hate getting in trouble. I don't want to get yelled at. And that unfortunately comes back to bite you in the butt a lot of times. So don't be like me. Another thing that you might be thinking potentially is I want to build up my audience before I do a big thing like a website. Like I want to just be building more interest and more visibility. Maybe you're thinking you want to be doing more on social media or maybe even building your email list without your website, like maybe having some lead magnets that you're sharing on Instagram or sharing in Facebook groups, or when you're doing a talk in the community, getting people on your email list and wanting to build up that way. And that's another one where I'm kind of feeling like when I was saying at the beginning, if you want to have more clients before you do a website, I just don't really see the reason in waiting to have a website, which is that place where you send people to convert. It's a sales tool and it's also supporting all of your marketing efforts so that the people in your audience, or as you're growing your audience, you actually have something to give them and talk about and share. So when you're going and asking doctors' offices or a gym for referrals, or you're wanting to go do a talk in the community, your website is the thing that you show that people can do to learn, to read more about you, look at, and all of that. And I just think it's kind of like trying to swim with your hand and leg tied behind your back, frankly. And so I think that your website is that tool to help you build your audience, and it's that tool to help you nurture your audience more and actually turn them into customers, which is what we ultimately want. Now, if you're still trying to figure out what it is you want to do, then I guess that's fine. But how long are you going to do that for? If you have a lot of time, you're not in a rush, that's fine. But if you have this idea and you're wanting to move forward, then you need to kind of put some things in place to start really testing things out versus kind of maybe taking the easier, less risky route, it feels like, to not actually be asking people for money or asking people to make a decision about something. And that just puts off you getting answers about what you should be doing next in your business and what's going to work and what's not. Another thing that people might think is I don't have time to do everything involved. I don't have time to blog. I don't have time to create a lead magnet. I don't have time to do keyword research. I don't have time to send emails to my list. So two things. One thing is that in business, we do need to give time for marketing and sales. It is part of the prongs of business. There's client delivery, which is what most of us went to school for, is learning how to actually do the thing, or the thing that we're wanting to do and offer people, which is great. We need to do operational things. So what are the systems that you're going to use to deliver to your clients? And then you need to be doing marketing and sales. So you do need to give time for it. If you don't have time for it right now, if you have like a full client load or something, then that's again going, okay, well, maybe I need to increase my prices so that I can take on less clients so that I can make time for marketing and sales. Or maybe you want to invest a little bit more money into hiring someone to help you with things, to take a few things off your plate. Doesn't mean that they should take your marketing and sales off your plate, but maybe it's taking admin off your plate or another practitioner to see clients, whatever the case is. So that's one thing, just not having enough time in general. And then the other thing is that a lot of the things that come with website and using website for marketing, and the things that I talk about with marketing, they're like long-term, more comprehensive strategies. Social media, if you are relying on social media right now, that's probably a pretty big time suck, and it's probably not going very well for you. It's just probably taking a lot of energy, and you're probably not seeing great results, because that's often what happens with social media. It's just very saturated, and it's very challenging to get people to see your content, and you have to put a lot of time into it and all of that. Whereas writing a really well-written blog, even with all of the stuff changing with Google, now there's AI search. And so still really important to have content that is going to be found now by AI and AI search engines because people still need information. I know I've seen just AI make stuff up all the time. So even though AI is giving me an answer, I'm going to the source and the link that they provide. So it's still very important to have actual searchable content on the internet. Blogging is still important for that. Doing email marketing has a higher ROI than social media for marketing and sales for businesses. That's been proven. And doing things like SEO and email marketing, some of those things can take just so much less time than having to feed the social media content monster. And email marketing, you can repurpose a blog post. You can definitely get someone to help you with writing some of your content. You can subscribe to different subscriptions. We had Yvette on the podcast. She has her newsletters service. There's ways to kind of jump over and go there faster with some of these things. And I just think it's time well spent, and it doesn't actually have to be a lot of time. Like blogging, even if you put out a blog once a month, that's well optimized. That's just a good thing. And then it gives you something to talk about, send to your clients, send in, if you're in online communities, answering questions, sharing your blog post, repurposing that into emails to your email list, whatever. Same with lead magnets. Those are things that you can share at different events into different communities. So it's time well spent, and it's more evergreen than just constantly posting or even constantly asking for referrals. I mean, I still think referrals are a really great way. That person-to-person connection is still really helpful. But if you don't have some of these other things in place, then you are just doing a lot of like one-off, one-time things that are not going to be as scalable or as automated and save you time eventually, and that are like repeatable. And then one other thing I will say about just not having time to do everything involved when it comes to a website, you do not need to launch your website with all of these things in place. I am more concerned about you getting clear on your business and on your customer and writing really great copy that we teach you how to do and getting that website up so that you now feel more confident. Like you're going to feel 150% more confident about your business because you actually have a website now that is clearly saying what you do and the things that you offer. And so it's like this flywheel effect where you are going to go and talk to more people, put yourself out there more. You're going to get clear in the process of just writing that copy. You're going to get more clear about your customers. So it's going to be easier to do some of these other things. And then you can add that blog later. You can add that lead magnet later. You can optimize your pages for keywords later. You can even start an email list later. I want you to do all of those things as soon as possible. I would love for you to launch your site with them, but I'm also realistic, and I have definitely gotten overwhelmed in my business at times. And then you just have to figure out, okay, what can we chip away? What can we prioritize, deprioritize? So that's a big part of what I teach in my program too, is just how to manage your time, manage your expectations, step away from perfectionism when you can and say, I can launch without these things. And then I'm going to add them. In Q2, I'm going to add my blog. And in Q3, I'm going to launch my first lead magnet. In Q4, I am going to start really amping up my email marketing. That's fine. I'd love that for you. So there's always a way. And then finally, another thing that might be something on your mind is I'm getting clients from Berry Street, Psychology Today, Health Profs. So you're either like working with Fay Nutrition or Berry Street or BetterHelp or one of these platforms, and you are getting clients that way, or you are using an online directory and getting some clients that way. And you're saying, maybe I don't need my own platform. It's what I was saying before, where you just hung out with your boyfriend and his friends all the time and then never like built your own life just in case anything happens. So I have heard horror stories about some of these platforms where they change things up, they're not paying enough, you're reliant on them. And I don't think that's a very safe place to be. I think it's great when things are working. I've had things in my business that did rely on other people and they worked really well for a while. And then suddenly those people stopped promoting my service as much. And then I took the hit. And so I needed to be building up my other stuff so that I was not reliant on these other platforms. So I think it's really important for us. And I know it can be tough. We have so many things going on. And if something's working right now, you're making the money, you're getting the referrals, that's great. Then it can feel like, well, why should I prioritize making my own platform? It's because you want that consistency and predictability and ownership over your business and your leads and who's coming in and your clients, and having more control and understanding about how to increase the number of leads coming into your business. And so you really do need your own platform for that. And I guess putting like online directories in a separate bucket, because I know like Berry Street, they're marketing and they're just getting you clients, whereas like Health Profs, you still have to close the deal and people are just finding you on there. It's really just for search. What I would say there too is that a lot of people may find a practitioner in a directory, but they want to go deeper and they want to learn more and really get a sense of your personality and what it's going to be like working with you and all of that. And you can write a really long bio on one of those places, but who's going to want to read that entire bio? And how the heck can you possibly encompass everything that you stand for and who you are and how you can help people? Like, it's just not possible. So directories are great for search and for visibility, but then you need to have a place for people to go to actually like really get to know you. That's going to make people want to work with you. Just finding your name is probably not going to be enough. And I've heard people say, I have no shows for calls on those platforms and all of that. And I think it's because the people that are just finding your profile and then they're not going to your site and going deeper to learn more about you, they're not really engaged. They're not really connected. They're just window shopping and just maybe not as invested as someone who's gone to your site and really like dug in and felt like, oh my gosh, there's a connection here. I need to move forward and actually be serious about it. All right. So those are my thoughts. I definitely talked for a while, but hopefully this was really helpful for you. And so I want to just tell you again about the workshop that I'm hosting very soon. So it's September 3rd and 4th, Wednesday and Thursday. We start at 11 a.m. Eastern each day, and you will have a little homework that's optional in between that you want to, if you want to do it, we'll have a workbook and a way for you to submit your homework. And I will be going over and teaching for part of it, and then we'll have discussion and Q&A and workshopping different things. And so the workshop is called Describe What You Do So People Want It. And really our aim here in this workshop is to help you get crystal clear on who you serve, on what you offer, and how to say it so that the right clients hire you and your website is bringing in leads while you're off the clock, while you're not working. So it becomes this sales engine for you. And it's really just setting you up to then move into a website project, whether you want to work with us or you are currently working on your website or you're just still in that like deciding phase and trying to figure it out and kind of building up that jet fuel to take the leap and decide. This will help you, I think, feel a lot more confident that, okay, I have enough clarity now that I can see how a website would really do me justice and really help me move a lot further than what I've been doing right now. But again, it can be just tough to figure some of this stuff out on your own without some feedback, without some guidance. And so I really want to help you move through that and get clear, because in order for your website to be successful, we need a really good, strong, specific understanding of who are those people that your website is for and your business is for. And then, like I mentioned, how are we turning your services into offers, into value-based packages and programs? And even if it is a package of hours of sessions or something like that, how are we describing it in a way that clients are feeling like really motivated that this is something that's going to solve a problem for them? People are buying solutions. They're not buying sessions. No one wants to just go and talk to someone for 6 successions. They want to solve a problem. So how are we talking about that? And then that is going to be then what we would bring into a website and put on the website. So it's giving you some of those foundational pieces that are going to help you, not just even with your website, with your marketing, how you're talking in referral situations, you're describing to different people, if you're going and doing talks or anything, it's going to help you with all of that. So you can go to whitneybateson.com/workshop to register for that right now. It's a 2-day workshop. You're going to come to both days. And we do have a cap on the number of registrants. So 30 people is what we're capping it on. Just want to really make sure that we have enough time for all that workshopping and feedback and discussion. It's $47. And I really hope to see you there. And I hope this was helpful. And I appreciate you listening. And I will see you on the next episode of The Growth Show. Thanks.